Good morning, I'm Arthaketu. So, as Tarapalta said, what I'm going to hopefully speak about is the difference between pain and suffering. But kind of to set all of that up, I want to talk a bit more generally about meditation, and then hopefully there's enough time and I get into the meat of it and the metta bhavana. A little bit about the metta bhavana. But first of all, I want to, for some of you, this is kind of going over something, as in some of you will have seen this before and kind of know it to some extent. But I think it's always good to go over things again and again and again, really, to repeat. And particularly like some of you that are more new, kind of won't have seen this material, so that's also good. So I suppose what I wanted to do was do something which would be quite practical, that you can kind of take away and you can really work with kind of in your week. So, what this represents, or what it will represent in a minute, is what's called a nidana chain. Yeah. So it's a kind of it's a chain of events, and I thought maybe as a bit of a, I don't know if a test is a good word, but that kind of thing. So the people that kind of know me a bit and know that maybe they've heard me talk about this before, I just wonder whether you might get what is in those 5 spaces. So it's a nidana chain, yeah? And then I'll write it out and then I'll talk about it a little bit. So the first one could be what? No. Good try, but no. Yeah, it's not right. Yeah, that's good actually. So I suppose in a way you're thinking about the whole wheel of life, aren't you? No, it's not the very beginning of the wheel of life.
Could it be Vedana?
Could be Vedana, but it isn't. One before Vedana, what might become before?
Sensory impressions?
Say that again?
Sensory impressions?
Yeah, good. So what's called contact, or contact through the senses. And then what might come after that, Rob?
Could that be Vedana?
Yeah. So Vedana is the Sanskrit or Pali word, and the English word is feeling. Yeah.
Well, is it feeling or is it sensation? Because there's a problem with feeling because it's emotion and all that stuff. Is it?
Yeah. Well, I'll say a little bit more about that in a little while. Yeah, you're getting a bit too ahead. So yeah, it is sensation. Yeah. So contact, feeling, and then what might come after that? Yeah, it could be craving, but in this model,
Perception?
it isn't.
Emotion?
What was that?
Perception?
Perception? Not yet.
Attachment.
Someone else said something?
Attachment.
Attachment, and what was the other one?
Judgment.
Judgment? No.
Aversion.
No. Right, I'll give you the next one. Contact, feeling. No, actually, you said perception. Yeah, you're right, actually. I'm getting ahead of myself. Interpretation, or it's sometimes translated as perception. And then this could be thinking. Yeah, you're right on it today. Thoughts. Maybe you also really like this particular teaching. And then this is quite a big one, isn't it? It's got 2 words in there. Any ideas? It kind of is, yeah. But that's not the 2 words I'm looking for.
Reaction?
Yeah, and it is a reaction, yeah. No. Okay, I'll give you this one. mental proliferation. So there's a few reasons why I think this particular teaching is really good. Yeah, and there's a few reasons why it's a good teaching to remember, actually. So if you kind of like you want to really get to the heart of Buddhism, you could just remember this, and you would have quite a lot to go at for quite a long time. Partly because within it are quite a few other teachings. Yeah. So first of all, it's a Nidana chain. So in a way, it's related straight away to the Buddha's insight of conditioned co-production or dependent origination. So this sense that everything arises in dependence on causes and conditions. So in dependence on contact arises feeling, in dependence on feeling arises interpretation, and in dependence on interpretation arises thought, and in dependence on thought arises mental proliferation. This is how this particular model goes. But the other things that you can kind of map onto this, I would say, are three of the satipatthanas, so three of the foundations of mindfulness. So contact being related to body, because it's contact through the senses, the six senses, or five of the senses, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. Yeah? So you could say that's body, feeling, and then kind of this here is more like mental states. So that's three of the foundations of mindfulness. You've also got, not with all of it, you've also got the five skandhas. Yeah. So when you read about Buddhism, when you read about the five skandhas, you've got form, feeling, interpretation. Sorry, the five skandhas have just gone out of my mind. Yeah, interpretation, samyā, and then volition. Yeah, so volition is kind of like this part, and also the other skandha is consciousness. You're conscious of something. So when you see something, there's a consciousness that is related to seeing. So you've got quite a lot of Buddhism within this model, I would say, and that also means the thing that I thought was really interesting about this when I really got into this was, like, the five skandhas didn't particularly mean that much to me, but when I got a sense of, oh right, they're kind of, you can work them more as a chain of events, it actually gave me a really good way into the skandhas and looking at the skandhas. Yeah, rather than the sorts about as five heaps, you can see them as actually a chain of events that happen. So to go into this a little bit more, so independence on contact, the fact that we've got a body and the body's got senses, when we're seeing things or hearing things or tasting things or touching things or smelling things, there is a sixth sense, which is mind. We have a felt response to that, or we have a sensation in a way, and the sensation is either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And this feeling in Buddhism comes before emotion, so it's pre-emotion. And then what happens is we interpret kind of what we see, and it's like all of this process happens very fast. Yeah. This is, for me, is a really fascinating link. It's also kind of like labeling or perception. So I thought I'd try and illustrate this a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to, when I go like this, we're going to laugh, and when I go like that, we're going to stop. Yeah. So you're just making the sound of laughter. That's it. That's all you're doing. And you're listening to that. Yeah. Very good. So now think or imagine that you, so we're going to do the same thing again. So I'm going to go like this and you're going to laugh, and then I'm going to go like that and you're going to stop. But when there's a sense of the laughter stopping, imagine that you've just walked into a room at that point. Yeah, that's what you imagine. Yeah? So. You just walked into the room. What might you think?
You're unwelcome.
You're unwelcome. Yeah.
It's a funeral.
That's another one. Yeah, it's a funeral. Yeah.
They're laughing about me.
Yeah, they're laughing at me.
You've missed something.
Yeah, you missed something. You're interrupting. Yeah. You're interrupting. All of that is interpretation. It's kind of also blending a little bit more into this, perhaps. But you've gone into a room. What has happened is there's been a sense contact, hearing. You felt something, so you probably haven't really realised this. And then very quickly you've interpreted that. They're laughing at me. I'm not welcome. I'm interrupting. Yeah. So I suppose what is very interesting about this, about interpretation, is you actually don't know. What you know is there was laughter, and then there wasn't. Yeah. So to give another example, you get you very quickly read an email or you very quickly read a text and you suddenly feel very angry. Yeah? I imagine everybody here has probably done that. You've quickly read an email or a text and you feel very angry, or you read a letter. Yeah? My recommendation at that point is don't answer the email. Don't answer the text. Give yourself a little bit of time. Maybe give yourself a day, if possible. Yeah? So you've got this email or this text from somebody. You've got a story about somebody. And you've quickly read this email and you've interpreted a hell of a lot of things that this person is saying. Yeah? And you're angry. Now, sometimes I've done this. I've had this kind of thing of, I've had that experience. I feel angry. And then I've left the email or the text for a day, and then I've read it again. I'm in a different state of mind the next day. And I read it again, and actually the person suddenly sounds more sympathetic, or what they're saying is quite reasonable. Yeah. So it's like interpretation is, it's not always accurate. That's an important teaching, I think. Yeah. So give yourself a little bit of time. But in dependence on interpretation comes thought and mental proliferation. So in a certain sense, the same thing as in you start thinking about whatever, maybe you're irritated by it, you start thinking about how you can retaliate. You're probably writing the email again, or whatever it is, or thinking about how you're going to answer the text, or imagining what you're going to say to the person when you meet them next. Well, you haven't just gone into thought, you've gone into mental proliferation. So to proliferate means, well, it's got this sense that like everything starts to spread, yeah, and kind of everything goes fast. It's kind of rapid, and it's like the actual word comes from. It's related to birth, yeah. So there's a sense that when you're in this kind of state, your thoughts are giving birth to thoughts, which are giving birth to thoughts, which are giving birth to thoughts, which are giving birth to thoughts, and it's all going. That's mental proliferation. Again, I imagine we've all experienced that. So, it can also be, like I think sometimes when people start to meditate, you can have different experiences. So some people start to meditate and they get into higher states of consciousness very fast. Everything goes really still and they feel really blissful. It's fantastic, yeah. Some people sit down to meditate and you just realize what your mind is like. It's so unruly and interested in things, and it doesn't kind of give you a moment's peace. Yeah, and it's just going on and going on and going on and commenting on everything and having conversations. It's like, and you're trying to find the breath somewhere in all of that. So mental proliferation is it's like kind of a chronically distracted state. So how does this all relate to meditation? So it relates to meditation because, so say for instance this is distraction, you've just sat down to meditate and you just feel really distracted, you're thinking about lots of things. Well actually you can come right back to the very beginning of this, or maybe kind of sort of either one of these, yeah? So one of the things that you can do is, so what you're trying to do when you meditate is you are trying to stay with contact, you're trying to stay with the breath. So breath is touch in this kind of model. So you keep on noticing, I'm thinking about lots of things, and then you just come back to the breath, sense of touch. Also, when we're in this kind of state of mind, it is having an effect on the body. Yeah, so it's like, this is part of the reason why we always teach body awareness practice, because it gives us so much information about how we are, and also kind of what we're thinking, really. So if we come back to contact, how is the breath now? Is it deep? Is it shallow? How's the body feel? Is it tight? Is it relaxed? Well, you can't be in these two places at the same time, really. So actually, it's like as soon as you're there, you are out of mental proliferation. As soon as you've noticed mental proliferation, you're already out of it. So it's really important, I would say, to kind of familiarise yourself with these. So when we're setting up to meditate, we often, or at least this is the way I kind of tend to teach it, it's like, I think the good question to ask when you start to meditate is what's actually going on now? Yeah, what's happening now? What is my awareness with now? And then it's like, well, you can get a sense of, is your awareness here? Is your awareness here? Or is your awareness here? The thought could also be emotion. So is my awareness with the sensation of the weight of my bum on the chair? Is my awareness with some kind of fluttery feeling in my body? Is my awareness with the temperature in the room? Is my awareness with that little sound that's kind of happening there? So all of those are kind of, you're in this kind of realm of contact. And then also it's like, there's a felt sense to that. Some things are pleasant. Maybe if I had the cushion underneath my bum, it would be quite pleasant. Some things are unpleasant, and some things are neutral. But you're kind of with something which is quite basic and primary, yeah. And then this is a little bit tricky because it's like the three things seem to happen fast. But is that primary experience or is it a bit further along? I don't quite know. But definitely this, you could say, for emotion and mental proliferation is secondary experience, and it's more volitional. But again, it's like, am I thinking about something, or what am I thinking about? Is my mind with thought? What is it that I'm thinking about? Am I imagining, or am I imagining? Am I imagining meeting a friend later on? Am I having a conversation, a kind of carrying on a conversation that I had with somebody in the tea break? Am I planning something? And what's going on emotionally? Do I feel happy? Do I feel sad? Do I feel irritated? Do I feel calm? Do I feel worried? Do I feel anxious? All of this is really good information. It's like right at the very beginning of the meditation, you know what is going on and you know where you are. It's like, all right, I'm in a state of worry. The state of worry or anxiety or depression, it's like they've got a very strong element of mental proliferation, partly because they're not pleasant and we want out. Yeah? When we start to experience difficult experience, we want out. And the mind quickly comes in and wants to solve the problem. I don't want to feel anxious or depressed. What can I do about it? Do I need to go for a run? Do I need to take a tablet? Do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? It's like, do. I need to solve the problem of this anxiety. But on this level and here, what is it? It's unpleasant. That's what it is. It's like my chest feels tight and my heart is racing and maybe I haven't got much saliva in my mouth. That is also going on, and that is a lot more, it's like that is a lot easier to deal with in a sense. So this is part of what we're doing when we're meditating. It's like, but also not just meditating, but in our day-to-day life, noticing where we are we really lost in our thoughts, and can we come back to something which is more primary, yeah, which is kind of contact and feeling. So in terms of the metta bhavana, we bring somebody to mind. So one of the senses is the mind. You bring someone to mind. You have a felt response to that person. So I bring Tarapalta to mind. He's a friend. There's a felt response of pleasure. And then you drop in one of these phrases, don't you? May he be well. May he be happy. May he be free from suffering. May he grow and develop. And again, you're trying to get a sense of, well, what is the sense of that? When I wish this person well, what is happening? Yeah, can I feel that in the body? Like kind of this sense of relaxing, this sense of opening, this sense of feeling more connected. But the phrase itself is more, it's kind of more, it's more volitional. Yeah. So metta, loving kindness, is also not dependent on how we feel. We can experience loving kindness even when we are experiencing unpleasant feeling. I kind of had, I would say, a little bit of a, is it an insight? Something, yeah, a while ago. I was like, there's this phrase, isn't there? Man or somebody cannot take much reality. Yeah, we can't take much reality. I can't remember who said it. But Eliot, yeah. But the thing that was going through my mind is we can't take much unpleasant feeling. It's like if you're looking at this model, what generally happens is when we experience unpleasant feeling, we very quickly want to get away from it. So this is also related to kind of aversion. So I suppose part of our training as Buddhists is to learn to be a bit more with unpleasant feeling. And actually, it's all right. It's also, unpleasant feeling is not solid and it's not fixed. It's not permanent. It changes. So you can look at that. Yeah, this sensation that I'm having of unpleasantness, is it constant? Is it changing? Well, see, have a look. So I suppose that's what you're kind of doing in the metta bhavana. And then, well, I said, didn't I, that I was, well, if you read the WhatsApp thing, that I was interested in this particular phrase from the metta bhavana, may I or may they be well, no, sorry, may I or may they be free from suffering. So that phrase caused me problems. Yeah, may they be free from suffering. It caused me problems. So why did it cause me problems? Because I couldn't imagine that, actually. So I was saying this thing that I couldn't imagine. May they be free from suffering. So what does it mean to wish that for somebody? What does it mean from a Buddhist point of view to wish that somebody is free from suffering? So I was thinking, like, well, you know from the Buddhist perspective, well, if you've read a little bit about Buddhism, that there are the Four Noble Truths. Yeah. So there is suffering as a cause of suffering. There's a path there's an end of suffering, nirvana, enlightenment, and there's a path that leads to the end of suffering. So in that formulation it says that the suffering is craving. So what does that mean? That kind of there is suffering, there's a cause of suffering, the suffering is craving. Well, it means that you want something. You want things to be you want certain things to stay the same, to remain constant, and you want certain things to be gone. You don't want them. This is how we live our lives. And it is based on this sense of pleasant and unpleasant and neutral feelings, really. We experience a pleasant feeling, we want it to carry on. We're in a period of being in a relationship which is fantastic, and we're in love and all the rest of it. It's like we want it to carry on. We want it to remain constant. Somebody dies and we feel deep grief. Maybe we want it to be gone. Yeah, it's like it's an unpleasant feeling. It's hard to bear. So the sense of craving or wanting is wanting, part of it at least, is wanting things to be other than they are. So it's a form of resistance. It's a form of not wanting something to be as it is, but it is as it is. So what does that mean then in relationship to this phrase, may I or may they be free from suffering? So I think my misunderstanding was, when I try to imagine somebody free of suffering, and I thought, well, actually, how can I imagine that? I look around me and I see that people, sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're in a state of very difficult mental state. Some people have got chronic pain. It's like, how can they be free from suffering? But the problem was, I was getting mixed up between pain and suffering. Yeah. So pain is this. It's this sense of unpleasantness. Suffering is actually, well, like I said before, it's our resistance to it. It's the not wanting of it. So it's the strategies that we kind of come up with to get away. Yeah. So then that kind of, for me, clarified what I was trying to wish in the metta bhavana. So may they be free from suffering. Well, again, to some extent, the phrase doesn't quite work for me in a certain sense. But what I really got into was this sense of, so people experience pain. That is a fact. I know that I experience pain. Other people experience the pain. When I talk to people, they experience pain. When I experience pain, I have these responses to it. I crave, or I'm averse. I want something else, I want to move towards something, or I don't want it, and everybody's doing that. So I suppose it's like, for me, the wish then is more, well, when somebody experiences pain, which they will, may they bring a sense of kindness to that? Or may I be in relationship to that with kindness? Can I bring a sense of kindness to the sense of pain which is happening? And it's like, what I would say on the level of experience is that what is happening is just some form of contraction. So that's what I'm looking for, really, in myself. May I be free from suffering means, may I soften this sense of kind of hardening against pain. When I feel pain, can I bring kindness to it? When I bring kindness to pain, it softens, and sometimes it releases. Yeah, so in a way, that's the that's kind of all I wanted to say, really. So just this sense of there is a difference. Actually, there's a difference between pain and suffering, and the pain that I'm talking about is experienced here. It's unpleasant feeling, and then our strategy to get away from it is all of this other stuff. It's like they try to solve the problem, they try to find a solution, they try to whatever. And also it's like, on another level, it's a contraction. Yeah, and it's like, I know what that's like because I've tried to relate to my pain, yeah, with kindness. I know what that's like to feel pain, and I know what it's like when I can do that, when I can just turn towards my pain with a sense of kindness. I know that other people are capable of that. And I know that other people are also contracting. So kind of when I'm wishing for other people to be free from suffering, that's what I'm wishing for, actually. I'm wishing for this sense of, can they experience somebody in relationship to them that brings a sense of kindness, which will allow that softening, or can they also do that? Can they begin to relate to their own pain in a different kind of way? That's really important. And I think it takes you a very long way along the path, actually. I think it's kind of like, it's what is at the core. The core, I would say, is this sense of like I said before, we can't bear much unpleasant feeling. But Buddhism says suffering can be ended. Yeah? Pain will continue, but suffering can be ended.